Hey guys, it's Chris from Highline Guitars and you're watching another episode of From the Luthier's Workbench. Well, this week here in the United States, and this is 2018, for those of you who will be watching this 5 years down the road, it is Thanksgiving week. So it's really busy around here at Highline Guitars. Thanksgiving means preparing big fancy meals and family gathering and all that good fun stuff. So I'm only going to do just a quick update in this episode. I'll talk about what I'm working on as well as what I have planned for some future episodes, and kind of teasers to keep you tuned in. So what I've got right here are two of the guitars that I've been talking about in previous episodes. This is my Tropical Burst Bravo single cutaway guitar, and then this is a natural finish Bravo single cutaway guitar. And with this one, I put down a burst color effect here using Crystalac's Craftnique pigments. And I wiped them on as well as sprayed to get the burst effect. And if you want to know more about that, you can go watch the last episode of From the Luthier's Workbench, which I think was episode 126. I think this is 127. Anyway, after I sprayed that and let it dry, I then clear coated the whole top with Solarez. I can't believe it's not lacquer. This is a brand new product, just went on the market. And it's kind of confusing because it says UV Cure High Gloss Lacquer. I can't believe it's not lacquer. So it either is a lacquer or it isn't a lacquer. And that kind of brings up an interesting point. The term lacquer can refer to any sort of clear resin that dries and cures and offers a protective coating on any kind of a surface. It's really a generic term. You can have water-based lacquer, you can have, like this UV Cure lacquer, you can have nitrocellulose lacquer, Japanese lacquer. There's all kinds of different lacquers. And I know that some purists out there will say, no, the only true lacquer is nitrocellulose lacquer, and that's just not correct, because the term lacquer itself predates the existence of nitrocellulose by many centuries. So I'm going to be calling this product, I think, for the sake of simplicity in future episodes, Solarez lacquer. And that just will kind of help keep it a little clearer. Maybe the folks at Solarez might revisit the name. I don't know. Anyway, I used the Solarez not necessarily as a top coat, even though that's what it appears to be. What I wanted to do is to see if it might work as both a grain filler and then a sort of a surface prep for my final clear coat for this particular guitar, which is going to be Crystalac's Bright Tone instrument finish, but in a matte sheen. And this is something that's also new, that's just come out. But whenever you're dealing with mahogany, the grain and pore structure can be so pronounced that it just sucks up clear coats. So I wanted to plug those up and fill them in so I get a nice smooth finish. And the Solarez lacquer really does that in an amazing way. I mean, just one or two coats and you've completely filled in the grain. And because it's UV cured, I can brush those on with a foam brush, take it out into the sun, and in about a minute, it's fully cured. I can level sand it and then move on. So it's a great way to speed up the whole finishing process. And that's what I've done with this guitar. But then after installing the neck, I wanted to go in and kind of fine-tune the neck heel to body transition, get it sanded. And so I'm going to reapply some of the Solarez on that area. And another funny thing that happened was when I made this neck, I used my CNC machine to carve in the design of my logo into the headstock, which is something I've been doing lately. And I always try to get that to match the body. Well, for some reason, I did it in red. And with this tropical finish body and a red logo, it kind of looked Christmassy. And I didn't want that for this guitar. So what I did was I took my Dremel and ground out all the red color that I had put in and replaced it with some green. So now it all matches. Now for this guitar, which you might remember me working on in previous episodes, I did a natural finish with that Crystalac Craftnique pigments. And then I sprayed multiple coats of Crystalac's Bright Tone Instrument Finish in a gloss sheen. Now one of the things that I've learned about using water-based products, and this is actually true with any sort of product which has less than 30% solids and dries by evaporation, there is a tendency for your finishes to shrink into the wood pores and the wood grain, no matter how hard and diligent you are with trying to fill that grain in those pores. And what I have found is the best way to deal with that is just not to be in too much of a hurry. Instead, I'll spray my clear coats and then I'll let them cure for at least a month. And that seems to get me past that period where if I level sand and buff it, I don't have to worry about the clear coats continuing to shrink a little bit into the wood grain. That's just one of the problems with low solids content, evaporative finishes. Now this Solarez product is 100% solids. It doesn't dry through by evaporation. It dries by exposure to UV light. So that means I don't have to worry about the shrinkage. And now you're probably wondering, why would I even bother with water-based finishes? Well, some folks just don't want to deal with a product that requires any sort of solvent for cleanup. And Solarez requires acetone for cleanup. Now, in truth, the amount of cleanup you actually do with this product is going to be very minimal. And I'll explain that in a future quick tips episode. I'm not going to get into it right now. But with the water base, obviously it's just soap and water, so it's really easy. And if you're not in a super rush, or if you can structure your process of building, it doesn't really matter if you need to let the guitar sit for a month because you've got other guitars you're building. You just have to schedule it out to take that into consideration. Now, in future episodes, what I plan to talk about, and this is both my quick tips as well as my From the Luthier's Workbench. I'm going to talk about a little bit more about how I'm using this Solarez lacquer. This, I can't believe it's not lacquer. And right now what I'm doing is some testing on scrap and some experimentation, because whenever I shoot those episodes, I always know I'm going to get questions, and I can kind of anticipate what those questions are. So I want to be able to sort of preempt those questions and have answers ready as I talk about the product. And I want to try a few things that I'm thinking about, some experiments and some tests before I actually shoot those episodes. But that's kind of what I have planned for down the road. And you can look for those in my quick tips as well as from my From the Luthier's Workbench. And all of that, of course, is available. If you subscribe to my channel, you'll get notifications on when those are available to watch. And typically it's one quick tip per week and one episode of From the Luthier's Workbench. So that's really all I've got for this week's episode. And for those of you living in the United States, I hope you are having a great Thanksgiving weekend. And we will see you in the next episode of From the Luthier's Workbench and my next quick tip. So take care, and we'll see you soon.